Hello and welcome back to the FPL Yellow Armies YouTube channel, and in today's video we are doing an FPL Game Week number 17 deadline stream ahead of the 6:30 Friday deadline. Of course, it's kicking off with Nottingham Forest against Tottenham Hotspur at the City Ground, and I tell you what, Game Week 17 is Sheldon's fun with flags. It is absolutely carnage this game week, and especially for my team, which we'll get on to. Make sure you, of course, smash a like on this one. Comment your transfers you're making in Game Week 17, because there's a big man we're going to talk about, a lot of people making moves, and it could be interesting. But also, obviously, don't forget the blank game week coming up in Game Week 18. So we're thinking about our Man City and Brentford players anyway. They're a bit of a kind of thing to think about. Do we have the kind of luxury of having them on the bench, or do we sell them? Because after 18, a lot of those fixtures for City and Brentford are really, really good. And it obviously depends on, injuries and stuff like that. So we'll get into it, and we'll also discuss our transfer plans for Game Week 17. But yeah, do let me know how you're getting on this FPL season. It's been a tough one for me, but since wildcard in Game Week 9, I have really, catapulted up, and it's 4 green arrows for me in the last 5 game weeks. So a bit of consistency has been great to see, but this could be a game week that really spirals me out of control. I think the same goes for a lot of FPL managers. It's a tough week to negotiate, what with the injuries and the suspensions as well. A lot of players on 5 yellow cards, so suspended for this game week. Some on 4, which will be obviously a problem if they get one this week ahead of the blank. And then, of course, a few on 3. And if they rack up a couple before game week 19, I believe it is, then that will be a really big issue. And don't forget, of course, in Game Week 21, there will be Africa Cup of Nations and the Asia Cup. So the likes of Brian Burmo, who is currently injured, he won't even be around anyway, if he's going to be back by then. You've got the likes of Mo Salah, Son Heung-min, Hwang Hee-chan. You've got, for instance, Ghana. You've got, the guy that's doing really well at the moment for Bournemouth, Antoine Semenyo. So there's a lot of things to think about and a lot of headaches to potentially have. So let's get into the mess of Game Week 17. Before we do that, we're going to look back on the last couple of weeks, because it's been a while since we've caught up. So yeah, it's been quite hectic, really. So I did my Game Week 16 deadline stream, and basically it was a much needed green arrow. Somehow I got a green arrow. I don't quite know how, but I did, because I made 2 free transfers. So I'd rolled in 15 for an awful 33 points, but it was just about getting through that week and having 2 frees for 16, because I was aware I had a goalkeeper problem, right? I had Areola and Matt Turner, and I was like, right, after Game Week 15, where I just didn't have a keeper at all, because I was assuming Areola would play against Tottenham, wasn't in the squad, random late injury, which we didn't know about, and so that was really annoying, and I was like, okay, right, let's really knuckle down, let's fix this issue, and let's get in a keeper for 16. And I had a few options. I was looking at the likes of Bernd Leno, the likes of Robert Sanchez at Chelsea, but there wasn't a lot really that got me that infused. So I thought, well, fixtures coming out for Chelsea in the next 6 are ridiculous, and as much as I don't really trust the Chelsea defence, especially the Chelsea defence, because they rotate so much and there's a lot of players getting injured and things like that. So I thought, what's the safest way into that Chelsea clean sheet, potential? And it's Sanchez, because he plays every game, he gets save points at least, and, he's not a bad pick for the next few weeks. What happens? Everton decide to score yet again, beat Chelsea, and Sanchez gets injured. I mean, I genuinely cannot believe it. And of all weeks for me to have Turner starting as well. So I sell Turner this week for Sanchez, thinking, oh, well, Turner's not going to play in the next few weeks. He plays against Wolves and gets the same as Sanchez, 3 points. It's just ridiculous. FPL is painful sometimes. Yeah, why didn't Turner start last week, mate, when I needed him? There's no need for that. He should have done that in Game Week 15, so fuming. But yeah, Sanchez, an absolute nightmare, because he's now confirmed out for a few weeks. I mean, it's just so unlucky. And I did see the potential there for save points, and he got those against Everton, but he gets injured with 7 minutes to go. On they bring Petrovic, and you just think, okay, fine, that's probably precautionary. Hopefully he'll be back for the fixture I wanted him for. Game Week 16's game was obviously, Everton on paper good fixture, but to be fair, they have been in good form recently. But it was more really for Game Week 17. Sheffield United at home, lovely stuff. Oh, brilliant. This is the one week I can't have him. So, yeah, fantastic. Well done, Sanchez. Hopefully he'll be back at some point. But you look at that and think, oh, well, I've got to sell him now because he's out for a few weeks. Nope. Believe it or not, people, there are bigger fires in this team to sort out. There are so many fires. And so, yeah, Sanchez, I started Sanchez over Areola because I felt that against Everton, Sanchez was more likely to play than Areola against Fulham, and that's how it came out. Areola didn't start for that game, but he's now looking good for game week 17, so thank God for that, because otherwise I wouldn't have had a keeper again this week. But he's recovered from that wrist injury because he was in the squad for West Ham's Europa League game, and Fabianski just shipped 5, so he's pretty out of favour. So it all works out in the end for me in game week 17, but I've got Hwang Hee-chan and I'm pretty confident he'll score, so I know that Areola's going to concede, but it's just at least I have a keeper, right, for game week 17. The keepers, yeah, this season are just wasted, honestly. Just stop wasting transfers on them. Just as long as you've got someone that plays some minutes, then fine, whatever. Defenders didn't get much better, and in fact it got worse with Trippier because -1 point against Tottenham. Look, he got a frustrating result against Everton. I don't know how he managed to play so badly in that game against Everton because, you know, 2 of their goals, it's down to him, really. And it was concerning. But then you thought, oh, that's probably a 1-week blip for Newcastle. They won't do it again. I mean, no, Tottenham are very good from an offensive point of view, but they still hold their own, Newcastle, against the big teams. They're quite a stubborn defence. Nope, not this week. And if you went for Martin Dubravka, then pretty painful because it's 7 goals conceded now in 2 games. And really, yeah, I was so glad I didn't go for Martin Dubravka in game week 15. Although I would have had a keeper that week, I wouldn't have known Areola's injury. And yeah, he actually ended up getting 3 points, I think it was, or no, 2 points in game week 15. And then 16, yeah, I mean, he's really disappointed. So he's also back fit after the injury scare of the midweek, but he played against Milan, so that's fine. But yeah, look, I nearly did a -4 for Dubravka in game week 15. I'm glad I didn't. But it's one of those things, like, I genuinely don't know sometimes with defences this season. It's incredible that no one is delivering any points, and Trippier has been so good all season. It's just these last few weeks have just been a bit up and down, but I'm going to let him off. He's now suspended, though, which is a real pain because I need a defender, basically, in game week 16 to kind of cover some of the... So 17, sorry, to cover some of the injuries. But nope, he's suspended. So, yeah, I mean, he had a fixture, to be fair, this week. Really, to be fair, it's not... Newcastle, just defensively, they're not keeping as many clean sheets now, and they're not looking as good. But Fulham are scoring goals now, so they probably won't even keep a clean sheet, Newcastle. We'll have to see. Saliba, Gabriel, I mean, how these guys keep blanking. They're the best defenders to own. The best defence in the league, in my opinion, still. And when I brought in Saliba for that game against Wolves back in game week 14, I thought, well, long-term investment, those two will be good. They've blanked every single week. It's just unbelievable. I mean, at least Gabriel has started, recently over Zinchenko, which was a relief when Zinchenko was benched against Luton, but still frustrating because the week before that, Zinchenko gets the attacking return. Can I just see some attacking returns from you two, please, Arsenal boys? Yeah, it's really frustrating, but the fixtures for Arsenal after the kind of trickier run, it starts, I think, quite well from game week 20 or 19 onwards. So I'm going to stay patient with Arsenal defenders. I think they've got Brighton this week, and then they've got West Ham possibly in 20 or 21. So from that point onwards, it looks a bit better, but I just still feel they're worth owning, and it would just be nice if they could just get an attacking return, because Arsenal keep doing that thing where they look like they're going to get a clean sheet and then they concede late on, or like against Luton where you think that's a good fixture and then all of a sudden David Raya decides to play awfully. So yeah, frustrating stuff. Mark Guéhi, I didn't start Guéhi against Liverpool because I was thinking that Salah was going to do well. He was my vice captain, Mo Salah, so it just shows picking the right vice captain every week is always important, because you never know. Sometimes your captain could not be in the squad. But in the end, obviously I'd have liked it if Son was my vice captain, but I was never considering that up against a stubborn Newcastle defence. So Mark Guéhi, yeah, I kind of was in two minds really, because Guéhi came on for me as my auto sub for Haaland. But at the time, at the Liverpool game, I was wanting Salah to get a big haul because I owned him and I'd benched Gay. And Gay was on for a big haul, I think. He was going to get the clean sheet. It was all looking good around 75 minutes. And then, of course, Liverpool turn it round and Salah gets me those points. And I never thought it would have been so valuable as the vice-captain. But in the end, yeah, a bit disappointing. Gay has been really annoying in the second kind of spell I've owned him this season. Bought him at the start of the season. Game week 1, really good. Game week 2, fine. 3, 4, 5. All these weeks, he got points. And then I benched him in the wrong weeks. And then I bring him back in his second spell. And he's just done nothing. He's done absolutely nothing. And so it's just, he's a bit of a dud player. Like, he doesn't get attacking returns. And then when you play him, he doesn't get enough bonus. It's really frustrating. Whenever he's on your bench, he ends up getting points. It's one of those things. But anyway, Mark Gay, it is what it is, and the Palace fixtures now are getting tricky, so might have to sell Gay at some point soon. Hwang Hee-chan, look, this guy's been a god for me, so I'm going to excuse him for his blank against Nottingham Forest. You know, it was Mateus Cunha, that was the pick in game week 16, but Hwang did get his goal in midweek against Burnley, so I'm not too fussed about that. And he's facing a West Ham side that I've talked about Areola. Like I genuinely think Hwang scores in that game. He's been so consistent. Obviously, he goes off to the Asia Cup in game week 21. That's fine. We'll deal with that then. But for now, Hwang, can you just keep on delivering, please, and don't get booked because I'm pretty sure Hwang is on 4 yellows. So it's a big tightrope, but fingers crossed, right? I've got players like Hwang, players like Palmer on 4 yellows. It's a nightmare. If they end up getting suspended for game week 18 when my squad is, pretty bare as it is, then it will be not ideal. Gordon also blanked against, Newcastle. They didn't play well at all against Tottenham, it's got to be said. And Joel Linton getting a late consolation. Gordon, at least he's playing games recently, but now he's an injury doubt going into game week 17. Obviously, was okay to play the Milan game, where there was a few injury doubts with him there after the game against, I think it was the game against, was it Man United or Everton? He came off, looked like he had a knock, and so was a doubt, and then played Tottenham, but then, apparently he's also got a knock after Tottenham, and now Milan he played, and now he's got a knock after Milan, so it's like, oh, dearie me. So it keeps on going from bad to worse with his injury status at the moment, and Barnes has had a setback. He was looking like he was coming back in the squad, and he, I think, had a slight setback. So good for the minutes of Gordon, obviously, but I don't think that really makes a difference as to whether Gordon starts this weekend with Barnes maybe not playing this weekend, because they've still got Isak, they've still got Wilson. They can start just those two together. They don't have to risk Gordon, sorry, I got my tongue tied there. They don't have to risk him. They don't have to rush him back. If he's got a hamstring injury, they might play it safe and just not play him at all. And that's a problem for me in game week 17 because I'm low on players anyway. So I really wanted some concrete stuff from Eddie Howe in the presser today. And it's Eddie Howe. This is what he does. He is inevitable. He just says, we will see. A bit like Pep and Arteta. So it's really frustrating. Need him to be starting this game. Because if I don't, I don't have the luxury of benching him and just having for next week because I've got no one on my bench, and we'll get to that. But it's an absolute shambles, really. So please, Anthony, just start the game, allow it. They've got no one else, right? Everyone's injured in that team, so just play Gordon. He'll be fine. He's a strong lad. Just put him in the team for the game against Fulham, please. Son, 17-pointer. Love to see that. Son, you literally single-handedly carried my week along with Mo Salah. I mean, Son just absolutely terrorised Trippier all game. And so Son has just been dynamite for me, really. Since I wildcarded with the Threemium, Salah, Son, Haaland, they have been electric. It will be an interesting conversation around January, though, because Son and Salah will be going off to the Asia Cup and AFCON, respectively. And, of course, Haaland could still be injured by that point. So does that mean that the game is going to become the most open it ever will in FPL? The most premium assets are all going to be out. And so we're going to have loads of money, and any kind of player can be available. So it'll be a really open game, exciting FPL. But for now, they've been really, really good. And in the absence of Haaland, if he is out for game week 17, which we think he is, we'll get onto that, then Son could be a really nice captaincy. Obviously, it's the early game against Forest. I don't love to do the early captain game because if it goes wrong, it ruins your week. And Forest have been defensively poor, but I don't know. I think without Maddison still, there's enough reason to not captain Son in this game. but it's not a bad option, of course. Never is for Son Heung-min, especially on the break. Son away from home often does quite well. So Palmer 1 pointer. He was my other transfer in. So Sanchez in for Turner. I went full Chelsea FC mode in Game Week 16 and really wish I hadn't with that 2-0 defeat. Terrible stuff. Palmer booked in the game against Everton, and then, just frustration. But it is what it is. He got the same points as someone like Sterling, who also got benched along with Jackson, and it was just a weird lineup from Chelsea. And obviously, Reece James off injured. Glad I didn't go for Colwell, who got benched. But then, of course, he came on for James after the injury. So, yeah, it's just a headache with Chelsea players, and I wish I hadn't have done it. But look, on paper, I still feel that pays off long term because the fixtures are just a joke. And Palmer's definitely the best pick to go for Chelsea, and he just looks too good value to not own. On penalties, he's so attacking and he's creative as well. So it's a transfer I should hopefully get the rub of the green from the next few weeks. But it's frustrating when it doesn't work in the first week. Then Salah, vice captain, thank God for that. I honestly was seeing the Haaland news and thinking, some people have got vice captaincy on some risky players. Like one person, a mate of mine, Reece James. What are you thinking, mate? He's made of Rivita. He can't play. But no, it's not exactly easy to know who to vice captain every week. But I would just say pick the second best footballer, even if they've got a tough fixture. They're premiums because they can return in any game. And Salah, to be fair, didn't actually look like he was going to haul against Palace. Maybe a little bit lucky with a goal. Came off defender, I think, deflected, but still, he's there in the right moments and gets the assist as well. It's just what he does, Salah. He doesn't have to play well to get big hauls. He just turns up and gets them. So it's just why he's so important to own. And love to see that. And he's a big captaincy contender for Game Week 17. What with the way that Man United are playing defensively and the recent injuries. I think Shaw and Maguire both went off in the Champions League when they got knocked out of that. So not exactly ideal for that Man United defence. The forward line, just Isak, only Isak. He's looking pretty lonely up there. Blanks again. I mean, Isak is just frustrating me at the moment, I'll be honest. Really, really frustrating. I don't quite know why Isak has not been returning, because for me, he is a very good FPL pick, in my opinion. But at the moment, it's just not quite coming off. And, Wilson has been back in the squad recently, so that is a kind of a headache, to be fair. But I think with Gordon possibly missing out, we'll have to see. I hope he doesn't, because I've got him starting at the moment, Gordon. But with the injuries they've got, Barnes probably won't play. I think Isak might start alongside Wilson, and obviously Isak got the rest in midweek in the Champions League. He got benched and Wilson started. So hopefully that means Isak does start this week. Now Palmer, we mentioned him, on 4 yellows, and there's been a return to training for Christopher Nkunku, which is an absolute nightmare for me, because obviously Palmer you'd think would be nailed because of how he's played recently. He's been so good for Chelsea. But, if Palmer is a rotation risk with Nkunku, that will be an absolute nightmare. So please, just injuries, rotation. I've got it all this week. There's no need to add fuel to the fire. It's absolutely burning inferno, basically. It's incendiary stuff here, so it's not looking good. Making up words as we go along. But in the bench, not a lot of promise. Areola obviously didn't play against Fulham. Haaland on the captain, thank God Haaland didn't play, because to be fair, I think he probably would have blanked against Luton. And as much as I say that, I never thought I would speak those words, but I don't know what it is about Kenilworth. Luton are trash away from home. They're the worst team away from home. But at home, they somehow manage to find it, hard to kind of basically get battered. But they still make it tough. And they did lose the game in the end, as we'd expect. But still, fair play, Luton. Then Taylor, 1 pointer. I mean, fair play, Taylor. He's been good the last few weeks, but now it's suspension as well. So another player on my bench who, to be fair, I don't think it's worth selling Taylor, because out of the options at that price point in defence, he's probably the best one. You're not going to go for a Lascelles with, Botman possibly coming back at some point, and all the injuries to Newcastle's defence. It's just not worth it. So you kind of think, just leave him there. But that means you have to have a very, very, very good 15-man squad to have the luxury of basically benching Trippier and Taylor without having to sell them. So a bit of a pain that it's had to happen the same week, but, it is what it is. And then we've got a non-playing third striker. I really wish that wasn't the case, But when I wildcarded back in Game Week 9, I had to do that to afford the squad. And Mubama is the one I've got at the moment. And to be honest, like if you have Archer, I don't think he's really that good. Like Sheffield United have been awful, so it's not much of a difference to that. But you know, someone like a Semenyo or a Solanke, even better. If you've got a 3 in attack, it's ideal for this coming week, certainly. So yeah, Mubama obviously he's not been playing enough minutes. Only played about 28 or 26 minutes in Game Week 16. So yeah, headaches going into Game Week 17, and we'll get onto those right away. Yeah, I don't know. I just think if I look at this team, I've used both my 2 free transfers last week. It was Brian Burmo out for Palmer, I think, and Sanchez. So can I just stop getting injuries, please? Like, can I just please allow it? It's absolutely ridiculous. I just can't understand how this keeps happening to me. So yeah, this is the team for game week number 17. In goal, the man, the myth, the legend, Alphonse Areola. Now, how this guy's not got a clean sheet since game week 6 or something, 7, against Sheffield United, I do not quite know. But look at the fixtures. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. The fixtures aren't bad for West Ham. Obviously, they're getting a little bit worse now. But on paper, it's still FDR 2. I do feel Wolves score, though, to be honest. So I'm a bit panicked about this game. But at least it's a keeper that has a game and he's fit to play. So if you start Fabianski, David Moyes, you will be very much in trouble. I'll be coming to your house and I'll be knocking on your door and hearing, all about why you made that decision. Because it's got to be Areola. It's got to be. So fingers crossed, he can finally be a hero. But then, if Hwang does blank, then fine. There's the silver lining and hopefully Wolves don't score. But the defence, what is it looking like for Game Week 17? Hello, Pedro Porro. New addition to the team. Yes, believe it or not, I've taken the rash decision to make a transfer, bringing out a player who wasn't injured or flagged, basically, which is quite incredible, to be fair, with what I was just talking about with all the injuries. Bear with for a second, people, whilst I retain some battery for my device, which would be a very, very good decision, because if we don't have any charge, that would also be a nightmare. And we cannot be having that, can we now? Now I'm going to probably find a way to not be able to find the charger. So just bear with me for a second, people. Probably should have got the charger before this, but, it is what it is. Right, hang on a second. Here it is. Yep. It's right here. It's right here. Don't you worry. Just can't seem to find a way of getting it out the bag, but here it is. Lovely stuff. Right, back to what we were talking about. The injuries. Yeah, so Pedro Porro, for me, this week, just felt an essential player to buy. Now, maybe that's a little bit overlooking it. Maybe that's a little bit dramatic. I don't know. It's tricky this week. I think defensively, there's not many clean sheets going around. So what else is there? Well, attacking returns. And Pedro Porro has been so consistent for Tottenham this season. Yes, Spurs, the way they play is not going to get clean sheets. But Forest are without Tao Alni, and they're not doing too well form-wise. I think Spurs probably batter them in this game. I think Son could cook in this game. And Pedro Porro is he's just an absolute baller, like genuinely. And with Maddison still out, Porro's on corners. He's got attacking threat. I think he does really well this week. I think a big haul is coming for Pedro Porro. Now, he is on 3 yellows, but surely I can't get unlucky again. I've definitely cursed myself now, I've said that. But fingers crossed, Pedro, the mask of Porro is coming out. And hopefully he'll be a superhero for me this week. But Gabriel, he's also there alongside Saliba. So Porro's come in for Gay because, I basically don't have enough defenders this week to start. What with Taylor and Trippier's suspensions. So I had, Mark Gay sitting there away to Man City. No, I'm not having it. No chance. Gabriel, Brighton. Please, to the FPL gods, the bullet header. Please. I've said this so many times. Just now is the time to shine. Gabriel Magalhaes. If you don't start this game as well, fuming. Absolutely fuming. You've got to. Saliba as well. I mean, he's done absolutely nothing since I brought him in. He was supposed to be one of the best FPL defenders to own this season. And what's he delivered me? 2 pointers, 1 pointer. Come on, mate. Yeah, I mean, at least Gabriel got me a clean sheet against Brentford. And I didn't own Saliba that week. So it's one of those things. It's just, dearie me. Fingers crossed that Brighton can have a terrible one for an offensive point of view. Although I think Ferguson might score. Maybe Pedro. He's been in amazing form in the Europa League. So it's one of those things. But fingers crossed, that will pay off, I think, long term, the double Arsenal defence. Midfield-wise, this is what we're looking at. And the Gordon thing is just a real pain. Like, why? Why you got to get yourself injured? Like, you were probably going to get out of the Champions League anyway, Newcastle, let's be honest. So why are you risking Gordon when he had a slight doubt after Tottenham? Then he's recovered for the Milan game, and now you've made him injured again. So well done, Newcastle. Fuming, absolutely fuming. I mean, it's such a good fixture this week as well. So I just pray he starts and scores and does me a favour. He's no longer the differential he was when I brought him back in Game Week 9. But look, he's just been a legend for me. So I'm too attached to let him go, to be honest. And unless we get 100% confirmation from Eddie Howe that he's out, which we haven't done because Eddie Howe never gives anything away, then I probably just keep him and start him because I don't have the luxury of just benching him thinking, if he gets minutes off the bench, he won't get many points. Well, I don't have the luxury of benching him this week because my bench is nothing. So, yeah, it's turned sour, my 15-man squad, very, very quickly out of nowhere, really. I was looking pretty safe for, bench options a few weeks ago, and now things have turned for the worst. So it's one of those things. Gordon, I could move him on, and I've looked at some possible replacements, but after this week, he's going to probably be back anyway. And then he's got Luton, he's got Forest. Those are fixtures I'm going to want him for when he's been such good form. So, yes, it's probably a hold, but it's just a bit nervous about whether he starts. And, yeah, to be fair, I have looked at other midfielders I could get, like Richarlison could be a decent shout. He's obviously now looking good, and Son will go off to the Asia Cup, so Son can, leave that, fill that void for Richarlison. And I've also looked at Brennan Johnson. Obviously, he's got unlucky the last few weeks to not get more returns, hit the woodwork against Newcastle. So I don't mind it, but I think Gordon's fine. Just leave him there. Pray to the FPL gods that he starts against Fulham. Hwang Hee-chan against West Ham, I think, genuinely could score. West Ham defensively has just not been good this season in general, and especially at the London Stadium, it seems. So, yeah, I genuinely think Hwang Hee-chan blanks last week, but, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So these things are irregular, and Hwang Hee-chan has just been such a unbroken clock. He's been fully functioning, all the cogs in every right place, and he's just been an absolute dynamite of a pick for me. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he does well. He's obviously got Asia Cup as well, so let's hope he does well in these next few weeks. And then when in Game Week 21 he heads off, then he could become someone else for my team. Palmer, Sheffield United. This is where Palmer's got to cook. It's simple as that. All right, I'll forgive you the yellow card. It's one of those things. Sometimes it happens in FPL. It's unlucky. And he also did have a shot, I think, which was well saved by Pickford. So he's always threatening in games. That's the thing. I did say about Sanchez, like he made saves. That save he made, Sanchez, to tip around the post, quality stuff. But he still conceded 2 goals. So, it is what it is. Palmer, he's just a more safe bet in that Chelsea team. I'm hoping that Palmer can do the bits against Sheffield United. They've been awful defensively. And yes, all right, Chris Wilder, new manager bounce. But Palmer's just been so good. Salah, captain, such an easy decision to me. Because I said about Son with the early game, I don't like it. If it goes wrong, it just ruins your week. And Man United, I'd put them on a level pegging, to be honest, with Nottingham Forest defence this season. Their defence is shambolic, Manchester United, and Salah's record against Man United is amazing. Like, basically, since the 20 to 21 season, I think it is, he's just got massive hauls. And we all remember the 7-0 last season. This was the game that I took him out on wildcard. Game week 26 of last season. It was the most depressing game week of my entire life, because I had Darwin Núñez and Salah, and I took them both out on wildcard because they weren't in good form. And then they deliver that. So, yeah, easy decision for me. Captain Haaland. Captain Salah, should say. I'm still thinking Haaland's my captain. because I was just auto tuning into last week. But yeah, no, he's not the vice this week, Salah. It's got to be him. Son, vice captain. Yeah, not a bad captaincy shout, but I think away from home is not as favourable, maybe. Even though it's on paper a better fixture, maybe. I still feel Salah can cook, and Son also will definitely cook. You know, he'll get his chef out and he'll be on that fire and he'll be strutting his stuff. But I just think, you know, Son, he does rely on, you know, certain things to fall his way to get returns. As much as he's been explosive recently, Salah just ticks along, very, very consistent. The front line then, this is a bit of a decimated front line because at the moment Erling Haaland is a major doubt for game week number 17. Pep Guardiola has said he hasn't guaranteed that he hasn't said Haaland is out. He's not said those words, but he said he thinks it's unlikely that he will feature against Crystal Palace, which is, you know, to be fair, more than we get from Pep for most weeks. So fair play to you, Pep. Look, it's fairly simple for me. With Haaland, I'd love to keep him, but I just don't have that luxury. Like, I'd want him from game week 19 onwards, of course, because we think for the Club World Cup in Saudi Arabia, you'd think he wouldn't get, you know, risked in that. So he probably gets recovery time and then comes back for Everton. Not a bad fixture. Although Everton have been better defensively, to be fair, but still Haaland against Everton is still pretty hard to ignore. But yeah, maybe it's going to be tough whether he comes back for that Everton game now, depending on how injury, this series of injury, you know, it's a possible kind of stress reaction. I'm not sure if it's a stress fracture, but it's kind of in that ballpark. So it does usually, a stress fracture, take about a month to heal. Now, whether or not he's out till January, we'll have to see, Erling Haaland. But, you know, he's probably a sell because they blank in game week 18 anyway. So he was just going to be on my bench. Now I'm thinking maybe I sell. Isak, Fulham at home. To be honest, I think the whole thing with Gordon does help Isak's chances of minutes. And a lot of people are talking about Isak as a good replacement for Haaland this week. So, you know, I've been complaining about Isak's recent blanks, but maybe this is the week to own Isak. I mean, in the time I've owned Isak, since he came in for Watkins hasn't punished me. Now, that could change this week. Watkins has got Brentford, his former side. But Fulham at home, possibly a better fixture than Brentford away. So I'm hoping Isak does really well here and gets the minutes that I need him to. And then I'll probably get in Watkins for Sheffield United next week. So, yeah, pretty decent. Hopefully that Isak pick can really pay off this week. Then on the bench, we've got Sanchez. Now, Sanchez, oh, what a troll, honestly. Yeah, he's out for a few weeks. Not sure exactly how long, but we'll have to see. Mubama, my first sub. Yes, he doesn't play. So, basically no bench this week, lads. Brilliant stuff. Yeah, not ideal. Basically, it's forcing me into a bit of a headache because I've really wanted Pedro Porro this week. So I've done the early transfer in for Mark Gay. That's my one free transfer gone. Maybe I should have thought, is Gay just worth playing? But I wanted Porro, so allow it, right? So that's my one free transfer gone. So any future transfer I make now is a -4. Then the next one, a -4. So we could be looking at a -8 this week, people. And I don't like that. -8 is very hard to justify because it is very lucky if you then pay back the points that week. Obviously, it could be over time. You could look at it that way. But accumulatively, it won't maybe, you know, be great for your points overall in your ranks. So it's hard to justify -8 sometimes. In certain situations, if there's a double game week, for instance, or a blank, then it justifies. But this is just the standard week. And there's just not many good, you know, fixtures really, and players getting injured. So it's like, I want to have an 11, but I might have to just roll with 10 this week. Like, it's just one of those things. So if Gordon doesn't play, I'm in very much the mud, because Mubama, I would be very shocked if he started against Wolves. And, you know, I think I do want to change Mubama to another striker by 18, because, of course, we're probably going to need our benches for 18 as well, what with the blank for Haaland. I mean, I'm selling Haaland anyway, and I've sold Brian Burmo, so maybe I don't need a bench for 18. But the point is, I want a stronger squad by then. What with, you know, 4 yellow cards, 5 yellow cards, people will pick up suspensions, and that's going to be a headache. So you've got to have, you know, ideal, you know, situations there. Now, it's a -4. That's probably what my thinking is. Haaland probably comes out. Who goes in? I don't know. I think it's a hard one because you've got Watkins, who I've wanted to own all this time, but haven't had the money to do it because I went for Isak. And now getting Watkins is tempting, but I think getting Solanke is probably more optimal. Luton at home, great fixture. Semenyo is also a good option. Bit more differential as well, which excites me. But just Semenyo's minutes are not ideal. Obviously, he's going off to AFCON as well, which is a thing to factor in. And then you look at, the minutes have been about 50, 60 minutes the last few weeks. So I don't love that. Solanke, we think is on pens, and we know he's a 90-minute man, right? So I think as much as I'm stubborn against Solanke most seasons, this time I think I've got to kind of come round to it. So I think Haaland to Solanke is the move, because with Luton at home and Forest the next couple of weeks, that looked really, really nice for Nottingham. The defence, they're not doing well. So I think Bournemouth are starting to cook now under Andone Iraola. So a Bournemouth attacker looks a good play this week, and that does mean if I do Haaland to Solanke, I still have the same problem with Gordon. I could do Gordon out for a -8 or Mubama up to another striker for a -8, but when you start taking out players, bench players, where I could just get to take out Mubama next week, I mean, I might not even need to take out Mubama, but it's one of those things. Do I think Gordon will play this week? Not 100% sure. Will he start? Possibly, and then I'll be annoyed if I took out Mubama and, benched Gordon, for instance. That's one of the things I have to consider. But I think I'm probably just going to leave it at the -4, because -8 just looks a bit too nasty, really. Might live to regret that if I've only got 10 players this week. But you know what? I just get through this week, don't take too many hits, and then get into 18 and try and survive that one as well. So, obviously Sanchez is a transfer I need to make in the future. But for this week, it's not my priority. My priority when I've got a playing goalie in Areola is probably to sell the big dog, Erling Haaland, because he's just too much money to sit on your bench, when he could not even be back by 19. He might be back by 19, but there's no guarantee of it. And, this could be a long-term injury. We just don't quite know. So, especially when there's good strikers on offer, I think it makes sense to move on Erling Haaland this week. So, let's get the transfer locked in. I think we're preferring Solanke to Watkins this week. I think it's probably between those two, because realistically I could look at other players like Cunha, tempting option, but I've already got Hwang, so I'm not too keen on doubling up for the Wolves attack. I've also got other options like Jay Rodriguez, but it's Burnley, so take that what you will. You could also look at like an Arsenal attacker like a Jesus, but again, I just don't think the fixtures are that optimal, whereas I really like the fixtures for Bournemouth coming up, and I think that's why Solanke makes a lot of sense. So Dominic Solanke in for Erling Haaland. That's quite a contrast, really, but that is what FPL has come to this season. There's been so many injuries, a lot of difficult game weeks to get through. That leaves me with 8.6 in the bank. That's quite a lot of money to play with in future weeks, but obviously we need to find a way to get Haaland back. I think we might roll in 18 if we're able to, because then we can just, with 2 free transfers, try and get him back for 19, or if need be, by 20. So that's what I'm thinking at the moment. But that's my transfer locked in for game week 17, along with Porro in for Mark Gay. It's Solanke in for Erling Haaland for the -4. So there you go. Those are my transfers. Lovely jubbly. Looking pretty nice this week. Obviously, Gordon, just hope and pray that he plays. It's one of those things. If not, maybe Mubama gets a start. That would be amazing. But I don't really, want to bank on that. So, that's the team. Don't mind that at all. I think it's not a bad side. Obviously, Sanchez will probably be one of my transfers next week. But I need to find some sort of funds to get Haaland back, of course. That is the more pressing matter when we get more info about Haaland. So fingers crossed, it's a good game week. We just get through this week and then move into game week 18, the blank game week. But I hope you have enjoyed this one. Smash a like on the video, comment your thoughts ahead of the game week deadline today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye everyone.